So this is your Windows virtual desktop setup right here. And a couple of people had complained or had mentioned that some of the resolution was off, and like when they went to go save, the screens were too big. And normally the way you would fix that is you would, on a regular computer, a computer that you have direct access to, like your Chromebook, you would be able to adjust the resolution of the screen. I do it all the time on my screens. So like if I wanted to make it larger or something like that. And you would go to your Windows like little start menu thing, and then you would come up to your settings, and then you would open up your system settings, and there you could adjust the display. Unfortunately, because this is a Windows virtual desktop, we can't adjust this. I can't adjust the size, the display resolution, the display orientation, nothing. So if that's the case, if you're having that problem, then we can't fix it that way. The other thing is I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and open up a new document in Animate. So I'm going to say create new. I'm not going to use one of those presets down there. I'm going to create new. We're going to be in character animation just like before. And this time I'm going to pick the 640 by 480 because especially if you're working on a Chromebook. If you're on a Chromebook and you've got like a really small screen, you definitely do want to use a 640 by 480. And as far as I know, I think that the way that my screen is displaying this, it's pretty close to the proportion of your Chromebook. So like, even if I try to like make it larger or whatever, it's not really making it that much larger on my screen. But I'm trying to keep it in the same proportion in the hopes that it does. So actually, I'm going to try this. So can you guys see that I shrunk the screen down? Can you see that now it's like kind of chopped off down here at the bottom? So if that's the case, if your window is chopped off, in fact, let me make it a little more dramatic. Let's just pretend like this is the size of your screen, right? And I went to go open up a new document, and now I can't do anything, even if I only saw it like that. Well, one of the things you can do is you can try to move it by grabbing that bar, right? But I can't grab the bottom of it. But one thing that I can do is, generally speaking, if I watch what happens to my cursor. When I go to the top of this bar, forget the stuff in the background, go to the top, you see how it becomes like a double-ended arrow? If I grab it and pull down, that enables me to somewhat, a little bit, like shrink my toolbar. The other thing that I can do is this thing here at the top that says Letroxel, all resources, graphical desktop. I can get rid of that by hitting this double-ended arrow, right? And I can, well, and on my screen, it's going to be different on yours, but what that does is it gives me a full screen. And on mine, it just blew it out to the full size of my 27-inch monitor or whatever. But anyways, once I've done that, once I've tried to make the top of this as low as I can, like I can't get it any lower, I can't get it any narrower because I've maxed it out. This is the tiniest it can be. So I still can't see the OK, but I can scroll down to that part. So even if the window doesn't fit, a scroll bar should appear here on the side so that you can scroll to the parts that you can't see. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and hit standard, and then I'm going to hit create. And now I've just got a really, really, really small window to do my animation in. But one of the things that I can do is even in this little window, I can use these Windows icons to either minimize, you guys know how to minimize that, or let's see, I'm gonna have to open up my window just a little bit because of the way my screen was oriented. So I can minimize it, and I can also go to full screen right here. And that's gonna maximize my space. The other thing that you guys should know and use is the fact that these little, the double arrows or the double triangles, you can open and close those as needed. So, you know, they don't have to be open all the time, and that would also give you more room. And so I'm going to come back here. Oops, cancel, I don't want that. And I'm going to bring that back, and you can see that. So, and of course I can change the magnification of my window here, I mean, I can use the presets, 50%. I can fit it in the window, all that stuff. And so I do have a little more room. And in fact, I guess I'll go ahead and use this to do the demo that we're going to do today, just so that I could be on the same page as you guys. So I do have one question though. As I am sharing my screen on your computers, do you see the whole thing, or is like my head floating like up here in this corner? Oh, is somebody putting an answer in the chat or something? Because I can't hear anybody talking. Nobody wants to tell me if they can see my whole screen?
We can see it.
We can see it.
Oh, okay. All right, so I just wanted to make sure because there's some stuff over here. But so even if you've got a teeny tiny screen, you should be able to do this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to show you guys. So yesterday, you saw the lesson on doing like the alpha and the moving and all that kind of stuff. So that's really cool. But we were only moving things like left to right or diagonal or whatever. This morning, I'm going to show you how to do a motion path for your work. So for your objects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a symbol. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to use my Polystar tool. And now, because I closed it, I have to open this up so that I can get my options, and the number of sides that I want will be 3. And I'm going to go ahead and close this again so I can draw it. So basically I'm just drawing a triangle, no biggie. And now that I've got it, I'm going to come here. I'm going to, select it all. And then I'm going to say modify, convert to symbol. And remember, that's a good example. The default is like usually movie clip when you first open it, but then once you've done it, it's going to change it to whatever you picked last. And I'm actually going to pick a graphic. I'm going to register it to the center, put the little dot in the center, which is going to matter today. And I'm going to call it arrow, or yeah, let's call it arrow. And I'm going to say, okay. So now it's a symbol. And you know that I could delete it and then replace it from the library or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, instead of just having this arrow go from left to right or up and down or whatever, I'm going to basically create a squiggly path that it's going to follow. Okay. And to do that, I need to click here on layer 1. And I'm going to use my, let's see. Oops. And that's a good question. I'm really glad I'm doing this with you, because what I need to do is I need to insert a motion guide. And right now, and I'm really glad that I'm doing this on the Windows Virtual Desktop, I am supposed to be able to right click on this motion guide layer and do it. So, but I can't. It's not letting me click, which is exactly that same problem that we had before when we were doing that other the other application, and you guys had to come pick up the mouse things from the ATC and stuff like that. Because it's related to that same problem that we had before, and I asked all you guys if you had a mouse and if you could right click, and you guys were able to do that, you should be able to do it. Remember, I'm on like a Mac and all that stuff. I don't have a 2-button mouse. So, but if you guys were able to fix that other, whatever that other assignment was that we did, you'll be able to fix this. So I'm going to go ahead and create new. And I'm going to make my new standard thing. I'll keep it the same as what we had before. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and quickly create my arrow, polygon, number of sides, 3. And there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and convert it to a symbol, modify, convert to symbol. And I'm going to, it's set up in the center, call it arrow. All right, now what I'm going to do is, I told you I'm going to create a squiggly line, and I'm going to use my pencil tool in a second. So here I am on layer 1. And basically what I just did is I right clicked on layer 1. And it gives me all these different options. One of them is add a classic motion guide. And I just took a screenshot so I can put that in the assignment. So I'm going to add a classic motion guide. And on this guide layer, I'm going to use my pencil tool. I'm going to change the color of my pencil though. So if you don't have the pencil tool, you know, you might have the brush, the pen tool. The pencil tool looks like a pencil. If you don't have it, all you have to do is hit the 3 dots on the toolbar, and those 3 dots will show you the tools that you don't have on the toolbar. So everything that's grayed out here, for example, are tools that I have already. And I just this morning installed the pencil tool over here. And you install it by clicking on it and then dragging and dropping it over here. So like this is the paintbrush tool. I'm going to go ahead and add the paintbrush tool just so you can see. And you can add your tools and all that stuff. Then when you're done, you just hit the pancake menu and you close it. So now I have my pencil tool, and I'm going to draw like a crazy squiggly line here. Okay, now I've got a crazy squiggly line, and I've got my guide layers and everything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so you can see a little better. So I'm going to zoom in to fit in window. There. So anyways, just like anything else, if I'm going to make this an animation, I need to create a keyframe somewhere a little further down the line. So I'm going to come to frame 50 and I'm going to insert a keyframe. I'm going to come to frame 50 here on the guide layer. By the way, when we created a guide layer, it is not a separate layer. I mean, it is a separate layer, but it's tied to layer 1. So if I delete layer 1, I'll delete the guide layer too, supposedly. But I'm going to go ahead and add my keyframe. And so now it exists all the way through. So I'm going to come to layer 1, frame 1. And earlier I told you about how you have to register your, you have to say whether you want it to be like registered or aligned to the top corner, middle, or whatever. This little registration circle is incredibly important. So what you need to do is in frame 1, you need to take this element, and now when I touch it, a little circle forms, right? But that's not the registration circle. That's just Animate saying, hey, this is where you're selecting. What I need to do is I should grab it by that circle and watch what happens when I get close to this line. Do you see how it like jumped and like snapped onto the line? Because what I'm doing is I am aligning this symbol to that squiggly crazy line. And I'm going to move it back to the beginning of the line right here. And what that means is because it is registered on that line, because it's like magnetically stuck to it, it's going to, it's going to follow the pathway. I say you know, but you don't know. So I'm going to come to the end here, the last frame. And remember, the triangle jumped down because when I made the keyframe, it wasn't there. So now I'm going to take this. And some people like to do this. Some people like to get back up here and kind of trace it out. I don't think you have to do that. So I think all you have to do is come to another point on the line and pop it on there. Okay. And when we do that, let me see, make sure it's not, I'm just checking something because I don't want it to. Okay. So when we do that, we now have this, the arrow is at the end on this frame, and it's here on this frame. And so now if I click anywhere in here and I say insert, create a classic tween, and now when I scrub through my animation, it follows through on that line. And we turn off the visibility on the guideline, and this is what we see. Now, one thing that's kind of cool, so there's that guideline. I'm back here on layer 1, frame 1. When I click on the graphic, let's see. If I go to my side window, and I hopefully you guys can see this. So we've got on my properties on the side, so I'm going to open that back up. We've got our tool presets, which I can't click on, but we've got my object presets. And I've got my frame presets and all that kind of stuff. And dock. Under frame, there's a button that I can click that is orient to path. Orient to path. And by having this object selected, and by going to frame and clicking on orient to path, now watch what happens to the triangle. Now it is pointing along the line. Now, granted, this thing is kind of big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink it. And now, if I turn off the visibility on the guide layer, you'll see that it's moving along. And of course, it's getting larger because I shrunk it at the beginning, and it's there. So, pretty cool. And the thing that's really cool is if I don't like that path, if I think, oh, that path isn't working, I think it's whack. So you can come to your, now again, I'm in the layer 1, frame 1, or the guide layer. You know, if I get close to the stroke, I can click and pull. Whoops. However, if I just click on it, it's going to click the segment. So what I got to do is I got to click and pull. So if you click let go, it's going to highlight the segment. And if you delete that part, or if you move that part, it's going to completely mess everything up. So if you see that, let go. And now it's going to still follow that path. And of course, I can come here to the last frame and I can shrink this down. Oh, but I do want to show you this. Let's just say, for example, I shrink it down, but I move it off of that thing accidentally when I'm shrinking. And I go back, look at what happens to the motion. Now it transforms into just, it's here on this keyframe and it's here on this keyframe. It does not follow the path. So if in either keyframe you change it, it's going to mess it up. Like if you pull it off the path in either keyframe. So all I have to do to fix it is magnetically hop it back on, and there we go. And you see that the path in the very last keyframe changes back to the original path. It doesn't matter because my piece is like off the screen anyways. So again, you've got to right click on layer 1 and insert that motion path. And again, don't forget, you can still come here and do your color effects. You can adjust the alpha, you know, or we can adjust the tint. So that now if we do this, it's going to change color as it goes through. And etc. And just like always, if I want the motion to go slower, all I've got to do is grab these two things together and make my video longer. Okay. So does anybody have any questions about that? All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop recording or pause it. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so we're back here in this animation. You can see that, right? And you know that if I go ahead and do this, you can see the layers. One of the key aspects in animation, in like hand-drawn animation, for example, is an animator will draw a frame. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing so you can. So an animator will draw a frame, right? And then they'll put another piece of paper on top of it and draw the next frame or the next motion, but they need to be aligned. Like they need to figure out, they need to see what the previous frame was. So a lot of times you'll see animators using a light box or something like that, or they use almost like really, really thin tracing paper. And so that way they have the original illustration here, and it might be like my hand in this position. And then they put another piece of paper down, and then they will draw my hand with my finger, you know, slightly open, slightly more open, and they'll layer the different images, and that's how you make a moving image. Well, one of the things that people used to call that tracing paper, that thin paper, was onion skin paper. Because if you think of the skin of an onion, it's like translucent. It's not transparent, but you can kind of see through it if you were like to pick it up. So the reason why I told you that is because in Animate, we have a function called onion skin, where you can see the previous layers of animation. And you do that by clicking on the button that's right here above the timeline called onion skin. And so I'm going to click on it. And now you can see, I can see the previous and next illustrations of this triangle. I can see the future where it's going to be. I can see the past where it is coming from, right? And I can also, in the numbers on the timeline, I can enlarge the range of past and present and future that I see. So the onion skin can go this way. Also, if I only want to see what's going to happen, all I have to do is click, hold, and drag to this point. And now I only see the future. So it's going to go like this, and it's showing me where it's going. Now, in something like this, you know, the motion graphic using the guide, it's not really that helpful. I mean, because I know exactly where it's going to go. It's going to be on the guideline. So I can click and drag and reduce it to no onion skin to where I can just see what's going on right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a movie clip symbol. So I'm going to go to Insert, New Symbol. Now, notice I don't have anything selected. Normally, like I've been drawing a shape and then saying, you know, modify. I'm not doing that. Right now, I'm just saying, I'm telling Adobe Animate, insert a new symbol. And now I can tell it what kind of symbol I want. If it's going to be a movie clip, if it's going to be a button, if it's going to be a graphic. In this case, I do want a movie clip. And I'm going to call it bird. Bird 1. Now, the folder, I'm putting it in the root of my library. No biggie, it's a movie clip. And I say, okay. Yeah, bird. So what that does is it opens up a whole new window. And it gives me layer 1, frame 1. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw, and this is going to be really bad. I'm just warning you. So I'm going to draw right here on, and this is the registration center point of this object. Okay. So I'm going to draw a classic M bird, right? So that is frame 1 of my bird animation. Spoiler alert, I'm going to try to make it look like this bird, the bird wings are flapping, right? So now I'm going to make a new keyframe, but the difference is I'm going to click here to frame 2. Normally, we've just been hitting insert keyframe right down here. Well, if I if I click and hold, I can insert a blank keyframe, and that's what I want. I want a blank keyframe. Now, normally it would look just like this. So this is frame 1, this is frame 2, and I want to draw my bird. I want to draw the second stage of the bird's wings flapping, right? But I can't see, you know, I could try to do it. I could try to like line it up. But look, all of a sudden, like that one wing is a lot longer and all that other stuff. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete, because again, if I show you, it goes like this, right? I know it's not dramatic, but it is what it is. So what I want to do is I want to turn on my onion skin. And now it's showing me what's in frame 1. This is frame 1. Now I'm in frame 2, but it's like, you know, a different color. So now I can draw, and I'm using my mouse. I could be on my beautiful Wacom Cintiq tablet and drawing something great for you guys, but I'm going to suffer along with you and use the mouse. So now I'm going to go to frame 3, right? And because I clicked and chose blank keyframe, now my button is hot loaded with, preloaded rather, with a blank keyframe. So now I can do that. And now I can draw. And I can hit it again, make a new keyframe. Now you'll notice that it's showing only the 3. If I want to, I can move my onion skin all the way back and I can see them all. Okay, so now this is what I have. If I turn off onion skin and I hit play, or actually it's gonna go like this. So that's what I've got. It's flapping. And I think if I hold down these frames, I think I can copy them. And I think I can paste them. And I think I can reverse them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? There we go. So now my bird does this. Okay, and it's not good, but it's there. So if I don't know why it's not playing, but anyways, that's how it works. When I'm done, if that's exactly what I want, which it is. Now, by the way, this animation is going to look really weird because I've only got 10 frames and it's 24 frames per second. So that's kind of a mess, but you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to go back here. So it says bird 1. I'm in the symbol for bird 1. I'm going to hit my arrow and I'm going to go back into my, into my regular window, my regular Animate window. The other thing that's really cool is I have this guide, right? I have this guide layer and I have layer 3. This is the, here's a triangle moving. I can attach other layers to this guide layer. So if I just hit new layer and move that new layer onto, or like, watch what happens. Like it's this layer is by itself. This layer is not attached to the guide. But if I click and drag it under the guide layer, now it is attached to it. And by attached to it, I mean, it's, it's going to, I can use that guide layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my library and I'm going to get my bird 1 and I'm going to click and drag it onto layer 6 and I've got it. And what I want to do is I want this, and you'll see how crazy it flaps, but I want this bird to follow this triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take layer 6, and I've got my bird, and I don't want it to follow from the beginning, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that keyframe for layer 6. I'm going to move them this way. Actually, I'm going to go back a little bit. So there is a little bit of overlap, so we get the story. So anyways, I just made a new keyframe, and that means that the bird, as you can see, does not exist. The bird doesn't exist until there, right? And so I actually need the motion guide to also exist, because remember, the guide layer ends there, right? So all I have to do is grab the guide layer keyframe, click and hold, and I can drag it further down to here. Now that guide layer exists. So if I go back, my bird is there, but my bird's only on one layer right now, basically. So I'm going to create a new, one frame. So I'm going to create a new keyframe. And now my bird exists there and there. So now, because I'm using the same guide layer in frame 1 of the bird, I can click and move it to where it's registered right there. And on my last keyframe, I can click and make it so that it is on this layer, but it has to be right on it or it's not going to work. And so all I have to do is on the bird layer, click somewhere in the timeline and go Insert, Classic Tween. I'm going to turn off the visibility of my guide layer. And this is what we're going to have. Wait, come back. Let me turn this off. Okay. So we've got this, and it's going to go like this. Triangle's almost getting away, and then the bird pops in, right? So there's my bird. Now, the one thing that is kind of weird is you're not going to see, just like in my example with the Jeep wheels, you're not going to see the bird. You're not going to see the bird flapping here, but it is going to flap. So it's there. We're just not seeing it, or we're not seeing it flap. And again, if I were to come over here and press the play button on the library, you see it flapping there. So now what I'm going to do is, just like yesterday, I'm going to export to an animated GIF. And here we go. Oh, the bird should be flapping. I don't know why it's not flapping. It was flapping earlier. Oh, it's not going to flap because it's a GIF. I'm sorry. We have to export it as a movie. So, but anyways, go ahead and try that. Create a new, oh, let me show you one more thing that you might want to do. This might make a little more sense. So I'm going to share this screen. I'm going to go ahead and insert a new symbol. Movie clip. Transform. So I'm going to make a rectangle. And in frame 40, I'm going to make a circle. So I'm going to delete this in frame 40, and I'm going to create a circle here. Okay, so basically I've got this and this, right? Square to a circle. Now I'm going to click in here, and instead of inserting a motion tween or a classic tween, I'm going to create a shape tween. Now that shape is turning into, the square is turning into a circle. It's morphing by itself. Okay. So I could use that if I go back in here and put, oh, let me make a new layer. Let me turn these off. I don't want it on the guide layer thing. Okay, so I'm here on layer 7. And I'm going to put in that transform thing on layer 7 here, and then insert a keyframe here. And basically that thing would like be transforming and vibrating constantly. Because again, if I press the play button, it should work. And I got to tell you, I think that my, I think I may have to restart. I think it's causing some problems with me because it should do that. So I have to figure out what's going on. I mean, I know it has something to do with my onion skinning and everything, but anyways, so go ahead and try the onion skinning, try to do like a little, try to make a movie clip kind of thing. And then it's about, well, you can take a break if you want to, 10-minute break. Why don't we come back in, try to make a little animation thing, but don't save it yet. Well, you can save it, but I'm going to show you how to save it as a movie. What we want to do is in Animate, I'm going to share my screen. It's not really helpful if you can't see the if you can't see your animations working. So when you place them in your scene, one thing that you can do is you can test your movie. So there's Control Test right here. And when you do that, it pops it up into a little window and it should show it. And I think it should work in the Windows Virtual Desktop. And I'm going to do that now and see if that works. So don't forget, you can test your movie. Okay, so you've got your movie. And the first thing you want to do when you've put all your elements in is you do want to make sure that you do the Control Test and make sure that it looks exactly the way you want it. And if it does, you can close the test and then just come up here to File, Export, Export Movie. And I'm going to do a quick screen grab of that. So I'm going to export the movie. And there are a bunch of options under here, but we don't want to do the sequences. We just want an SWF movie. And then you'll put your name in it. And then save it. And you should be able to, on your computer, like if you double click that SWF file, it should open up and play for you. But if it doesn't, don't worry. It just means like Flash has been like disabled on your computer. So then you just copy it up to me and you message or you put in the Schoology assignment, the .swf. And that's how we're going to do it for all of the things that we do in Animate. You're going to be exporting it as an SWF. And that's it.